Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast helping your family cruise a little smarter. And we're back with another mini episode covering food available on the Disney Cruise Line. And joining me today to discuss some of the other different options besides main dining is my wonderful co-host, down in Florida. How are you doing today, Christy?
I am well, Steve. How are you?
Not too bad. So I think I'm going to do this main dining mini-sode and then what we're talking about today. And then I'm just going to let you and Chris do the fine dining because I think that you guys have much better palates than I do. So,
well, I don't know about that. I mean, you do like Subway over Palos. So I'm not sure. You're right. You should not do that one.
Exactly. The joke continues. No, I do like Palo, but I digress. Okay. Today, Christy, we are going to touch on some of the food that is up on top of the pool deck. And one of the things that if longtime listeners, all those people that have been listening to it for 5 years and have not yet been on a Disney Cruise Line yet, the first thing that they hear a lot of our guests say is when they get on board a Disney ship, where do they go, Christy?
Cabanas.
And what is Cabanas? I think about Cabanas as being this like nice little palapa that's out on Castaway Cay that you guys get to hang out in. But on the Disney ships, it's something completely different.
If only. On the Disney ship, it is the buffet. So think Lido Deck or the Windjammer. If people are familiar with Royal Caribbean, it is set up differently, but it is the buffet for the Disney Cruise Line.
And I meant to look this up, but do you have any idea why cruise ships all have buffets on board?
Because it's an easy way to feed a whole bunch of people with a lot less servers.
I think that's it. Yeah, I was going to look it up and see if there was like any type of like, there's a history, there's got to be a history behind it a little bit, but I think that probably speaks to what it's mostly there for. It's an easy way to feed people quickly in a lot of different settings. So Cabanas is usually open up. Well, it is always open up the first day as you get on the ship. When can you go to Cabanas? When does Cabanas have food available? Do you know?
So the first day of the cruise, Cabanas is going to be open basically at your boarding time to provide you with lunch. And that's usually until about 2:30, 3 o'clock. It depends. That time shifts as check-ins go a little bit later, depending on the port and what time they end check-ins. But so it is a buffet restaurant where you can get your food when you first get on the ship. It is also open for select dinners. So Cabanas is never, so there's main dining and we've already done that episode, but Cabanas is never open for dinner on the first night or the last night. And I guess they're just using that time to clean up and get ready to switch over the ship, things like that. But it is never open, which I find to be sometimes, I want sometimes to go to dinner at Cabanas, especially that last night. Like I have had many a cruise where we wish we could have gone to Cabanas or the first night. They haven't like changed your dining, like you wanted second seating and they haven't figured it out yet, or you wanted first seating and they hadn't gotten you there yet. It would be awfully nice to be able to go to Cabanas. Not a choice, but so that is not an option for you. It is also open for breakfast. And I will say the one difference from Disney Cruise Line to basically every other cruise line is their buffet has the least amount of open hours, if that makes sense. So like other cruise lines, almost all day long, you're going to be able to find some snack food, at least in the pre-COVID times, some kind of like cheese and crackers or fruit, things like that you can get when you're hungry at 3 o'clock. Well, on Disney Cruise Line, you are not getting a 3 o'clock snack at Cabanas. Cabanas closes. So you can't go, it's not going to be open right from breakfast to lunch. So lunch is another time that you can get food at Cabanas. But unlike other cruise lines, they don't just like move from breakfast to lunch basically without ever closing the doors. Disney Cruise Line does close the doors. And so you will have to leave, or you don't have to leave. They don't care if you sit there, but they're just not going to give you any more food. And then they'll open up again for lunch. They're open for a couple of hours for lunch. Then they close. And if it's not the first or the last day of your cruise, then they will also have dinner. And I feel like dinner starts at like 6:30. I have never done dinner, but I know you have, Steve. What's cool about dinner is it's not a buffet or traditional buffet. You don't go up to the buffet to get your food. They still bring you, there are waiters in there and they still bring you your food if you are eating there for dinner.
Yeah, we actually went there twice for dinner, and both of the times was because we were in Europe and we got back late from our excursion that we were on, and so we missed our dining time. We were at the early dining, and what's weird is one time it was a buffet where you could just go up and get some stuff. You could also order things, and then the second time we ate there, like you said, it was just order off kind of a small menu. You could get just like kind of the normal stuff like steaks. There's mac and cheese for kids, chicken fingers, that type of stuff. But the one thing that was kind of cool about sitting up there was our waiter the second time. We had just a great conversation because there wasn't very many people up there. You can also get all the specialty drinks you want up there. They have alcoholic drinks as well available, wine, beer, if you want to have that with your dinner. But we had a great conversation with our waiter. So it's a great alternative for if for whatever reason you just don't feel like, or your kids are tired and you don't want to deal with the formal dinners. It's a great option to go up there. It's a lot less. It's a lot more relaxed, I should say.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so let's talk about just the basics of Cabanas. On the Magic and the Wonder, it's located on deck number 9, up on the pool deck. On the Magic and the Fantasy, it's on deck 11, and you've got your
on the Dream and the Fantasy.
Sorry, on the Dream and the Fantasy, it's on deck 11, and I think you've got your deck plans out there. And the Wish, I think it's going to be on the front of the ship. On all the older ships, it's in the back.
It's in the back wrong? Too.
It's in the back too. Okay, I'll
and
scratch
it's
that.
Actually called the Marceline Market on the Disney Wish, and it will be on deck 11.
And I don't want to digress. We won't go into that too much because it doesn't actually open, but it looks a lot like what Norwegian Cruise Line does, where they have different like stations around where you'll just go to like a salad station, a sandwich station, rather than kind of the traditional buffet line, which is on the older ships.
And actually Celebrity and to a point, Royal Caribbean have the stations as well.
Okay. So let's just talk. Well, we won't go through all the different food options or anything like that, but let's kind of talk about how Cabanas works. When you come up to Cabanas, they have a hand washing station. And so you'll go through that at the beginning of the line. And this is one of the things that I see quite a bit. I was watching it on the last cruise that I was on, was there's a long line waiting at the hand washing station, and everybody's just kind of waiting in that line after the hand washing station to go to that first food station. But do you have to wait in that line, Christy?
Well, you have to wait in the hand washing line. So if you haven't washed your hands, you do have to wait there. I will, though, say, but no, you don't have to wait in line for food. But as it relates to hand washing, if you come up the stairs at the aft of the ship or take the elevator through the aft of the ship, I feel like there's never a line, or rarely is there a line for the hand washing station. So maybe that's a little pro tip on the Dream and the Fantasy, that you can enter from the aft of the ship. So Disney recycles the buffet. You're going to have whatever the choices are, one little section of it. But typically there is another section of the exact same food further down the line. Or you can go to the salad station first and get your salad or your crab legs if it's the first day of the cruise. And then in the back, they have a couple of other selections, or sometimes like in the pre-times, that's where the carving station would be, all the way aft in the buffet. I'm not sure if that's ever coming back, but if there is a carving station, it would be in the back of the buffet. And in the current times, they start the same food choices again, typically towards the back of the buffet. So go to a buffet part that doesn't have a line. And I also recommend that you actually step outside, just stand back for a second and do a little peruse through the buffet area to see what it is you want to eat. And that way you get a good idea. And if you have kids, it's a good idea too, to say, okay, here are some things my kids are going to like. You can get it from here, here, and there. I just like the idea of doing like a once over before you actually start having them put food on your plate.
That's a really good point. Breakfast seems to be the same day in and day out, but lunch and dinner can definitely change. Well, lunch, we'll just talk with lunch because dinner's generally off the menu.
Well, and breakfast is slightly different. Like one day they're going to have pancakes that have blueberries in them. One day they're going to have waffles. In the current times, don't typically have pancakes and waffles on the same day. Sometimes they have those churro waffles, which, oh my God, I am so disappointed in myself. I went on like 4 Disney cruises, or in the once cruising started up, and I only had those one time churro waffles, which are basically cinnamon sugar waffles. They are amazing. Thank you, Amber, for telling us about them.
They beat Mickey, huh?
Well, they're Mickey shaped churro waffles.
Oh, I missed that part. Okay. Yeah.
And
No.
for me, because I have an allergy, mine are always really fresh.
So basic tips there, as Christy said, the food recycles. You don't have to stand in that long line that might be after you get to the hand washing station, waiting to go through the food. There's plenty of other areas where there's food. In the back for lunch and for dinners is where the desserts tend to be. So if you want to go back there and take a look at the desserts, that's an option there. In the morning for breakfast, I think it ends up being some of your breads. They used to do a lot more like options, like when you go to Europe, kind of more European kind of continental breakfast too, where they have meats and cheeses as well. I didn't really notice that as much. Did you?
Yeah, they have that for sure.
Okay, so they've got some meats and cheeses, and that tends to be in the back part of the ship.
Yeah, it's like, so on my last couple of cruises, I don't think it was all the way back. I think it was like, but it was towards the back, like across from the salad, typically like near that area and at the end of a buffet row. And it's a smaller section, but it still existed.
So the other thing that's kind of chaotic in that, and I totally agree with you, like go through, see what food you want, and then go back and get it, is with our family of 4, it's a little bit better now that we have our cell phones, but historically we'd go in there, somebody would go get a table, nobody know where they were getting that table, everybody get in line with food, and then everybody's wandering around with their food trying to find the table. So maybe another tip would be everybody find the table together. Yes. And then somebody sit there and hold the table if you need to, or put some coffee down or whatever you need to do to hold that table. And then everybody go get your food and come back, because that has been kind of chaos. And you see that kind of over and over with people wandering around looking lost with they're kind of that dad and with the deer in the headlight look at Disneyland, trying to find out what he's going to do next. So trying to find his table.
We tend to, when we do dine at Cabanas, to eat in the same area every time, which is helpful for the where does everybody go and how do you find a table problem. But then also because, and we should talk about this, people with food allergies. If you have a food allergy, your experience or a food limitation, your experience at Cabanas will be a little bit different. For most people, if cross contact is an issue, you're not going to just walk up to the buffet and eat food off of it. You're going to want to get your food from the back. And so you will go to a head waiter that is stationed typically near the middle of, there's like these little stands that actually are the coolest looking. Have you ever paid attention to those, Steve? They look like they are sand castles, like that they're made out of sand, at least on the Dream and the Fantasy. But they're just like little bars where somebody could have a pad of paper and like a little like host stand type thing. But they made it look like sandcastle. See, this is what's so cool about Disney is those little tiny touches that, you know, nobody else would think, hey, let's make this little host stand look like a sandcastle. But Disney did. So you find a head waiter. They're almost always during the daytime wearing white polo shirts, and they will actually assist you in knowing what food has what allergens in it, and or we'll talk to the chefs too if they don't happen to know, but they know so much about allergens. They are amazing. And then they'll get your food from the back for you as well.
You know what we haven't touched on is drinks. Where do people get their drinks, Christy?
There are drink stations. So depending on what you want, if you want an adult beverage or something that has to be made at that moment, there are either servers that do walk around, like bar servers that walk around and will take those orders for you. There is also like a bar in the back that if it is manned, you can go to, that they can take care of that for you. But otherwise, there are servers that walk around. But for the regular beverages, remember Disney Cruise Line includes soda for included in your cruise fare. So as long as it's not from a bar, which is so random, but there's drink stations. So the drink stations have coffee, tea, milk, not milk. Well, okay, this is complicated. There is milk at the pool deck at the coffee station, but there is not milk in the Cabana's drink stations. So those you get from like the middle section where you get the salads. They have little cartons of milk there. They have juice. They have a couple of juices, and then they have the soda. They have water and ice, coffee as well, and tea. So there are little stations. In the current times, there are people manning those stations that are getting your drinks. At some point, that'll go away, and we'll get our drinks again.
And I think did you say the outdoor one, people were able to get their own drinks on the Fantasy in the last cruise you were on?
Yeah. So at Christmas time, you could get your own drink outside.
So watch for that to possibly change. So the last thing I guess I really have about cabanas is not only is there indoor seating, but you have trays to be able to get your food. So you can take it outdoors as well. You can take it out to the pool deck. Along the pool deck on the outside, there's always tons of tables. So you can sit outside if you want there. And then also in the back, one of the places that we enjoy is usually an open outdoors area as well on all of the ships. So a lot of times we'll try and get out to that back area as well to sit. But you know what, now that I think about it, there's one other thing too. And have you noticed this as much? I have not noticed as much in the Caribbean, but when you go to Europe, for whatever reason, the vast majority of port adventures, when you're in a port, leave early because generally a lot of the European places that you stop at, you've got long days. And so they get those people off the ship early. So cabanas can be a real mess in the morning sometimes there. I haven't felt it in the Caribbean so much. And on sea days, it's usually pretty easy to find tables. But that's the one time where you might find it pretty hectic is on those European sailings where everybody's trying to get off at 7:30 for their port adventure. And so everybody's up there at 7 trying to eat. So,
And I do feel like in the Caribbean on port days, it can be just as crowded. That is one time that I have a very fond memory of having to go through cabanas one day for one of my cruises during a time that we were in concierge. And the difference between going to the little suite level concierge lounge is that it is peaceful and tranquil, and there's people to give you things and get you things, as opposed to the chaos that sometimes is cabanas.
So just be aware of that. If you're trying to drag your whole family up there at 7:00 and you need to be down in the Walt Disney Theater at 7:30, you might want to plan a little bit earlier or get somebody to get up there and get that table ahead of time, because you can usually eat fast enough if you can find the table. That's the problem.
Right. And then obviously go all the way into the back, because sometimes that is where the tables are located. One random little note, if you are celiac and cannot eat gluten-free for whatever your reason is, they have random little containers of the gluten-free specific Chex Mix in the back, in the kitchen at Cabanas. And my head waiter magically pulled this out of his hat one day. I was like, oh, I'm late. I got to go do something. I got to get Blake somewhere. And he's like, well, here, I can give you a bowl of cereal. And I was like, oh, I don't have time. Because, when you do have an allergy, it takes a while typically for the food to come out. But he literally was gone for 10 seconds. He walked in a door and grabbed me a magical box of cereal. So if you have food allergies and you want cereal, talk to one of your head waiters and see if they can magically get you a box of cereal or a little thing of cereal in a type that would work for whatever your allergy is.
It'll put a smile on your face, just like Christy has right now talking about it. So,
it was just so magical. It took no time.
One other quick tip I enjoy is I don't eat omelets at home, but they'll have pre-made omelets, which generally aren't all the greatest. You'll see them in the line, but if you go to the back as well, they have an omelet station, and then you can order whatever you want. And nowadays, I'm not sure if they did this before, but on our last cruise, at least, they give you a little number and then you go sit down and they will bring your omelet to you. And it's usually pretty quick. So I thought that's something that I enjoy as well. Okay. I'm going to try and say this. Correct me if I'm wrong. So we talked about Cabanas has limited out. Well, it's not always open. So your food options when Cabanas are not open is in the evening after it closes is room service. Room service is 24/7.
Correct.
Okay. So that's your option later in the evening. And then
except for the last day, there's no room service the last day of your cruise.
Okay. Your other options are located on the pool deck. We're not going to go into the ins and outs of everything that's available at them, but we'll touch on the two different classes ship and talk about what they have. So we'll start off with the Magic and on the pool deck area. So when Cabanas is closed, your options are going to be they've got a pizzeria, Pinocchio's Pizzeria. Lately, I think the pizzas have been a little bit better. I know Amber doesn't like them, but they've kind of upped their game a little bit. They've added some different, I think there was a pear gorgonzola pizza one day when we were on board, which Anawik actually kind of liked. They always have pepperoni, so don't worry. They'll have pepperoni for your kids. And cheese, yes, exactly. So
say that my son's cheese pizza looked really good our last couple of cruises, but I can't eat it, so I have no idea.
I actually don't mind it. So anyways, you've got your pizzeria on board. Then you have the Duck Inn Diner, which is going to have things like hamburgers and hot dogs and French fries, all that kind of classic stuff like that. But the neat thing that the Wonder and the Magic have, which you will not find on the Fantasy and the Dream, the dream and the fantasy is shawarma. And what is shawarma? Shawarma is, they've got two different kinds. They get the lamb and then they also have chicken. So it's kind of that meat that's kind of put together on a rotating spit, and then they carve it off, and then you can add, all different kinds of salad and tzatziki sauce and onions and whatever else you want to put on it. And that's really good. And we always enjoy that. Beyond that, the other thing that I'll throw out for a kind of a breakfast thing, if you're not a heavy breakfast eater and you don't want to deal with Cabanas, they have a thing called Daisy Delights, and it's back there next to Cabanas. It's outside of Cabanas. You'll find it on the map. And in the mornings they used to have oatmeal for sure, but they definitely have like yogurt parfaits with fruit. And they also started for lunch they always have sandwiches out there. So you get just like different types of turkey, ham sandwiches and whatnot. And they started having these bowls, and it was kind of a grain bowl. And I can't remember what all they had in it. So that's something to look out for when you're on the Magic of the Wonder, if you're looking for an option, especially at breakfast. If you get back there and Cabanas is crazy and you just need to grab something quick, and then you're going to head off on your port adventure, head out to Castaway, whatever you're going to do, that's a great option for you as well. So that's kind of an overview of what is on board the Magic and the Wonder. Christy, you want to go with what they have on the Dream and the Fantasy?
Yeah. So, and I don't know that we've used this word yet, but it's referred to as quick service. So it's sort of like your fast food option, like quick service in the park. So similar concept where you basically walk up, they mostly have food prepared and they put it on plates and hand it to you. Or if they might be grilling hamburgers and they take it off of the hamburger grill and put it on a plate and give it to you. On the Dream and the Fantasy, also on deck 11, and that it's basically where Cabanas is in the back of the ship. These food options are in the middle of the ship, sort of middle front. But there's Flo's Cafe. Flo's is going to have, for the most part, they're going to have salads and fruit, things like that. Then there's Luigi's Pizza and Tow Mater's Grill. So Luigi's Pizza speaks for itself. These, I'm staring at this on my little deck map, but these are out of order because the pizza's first and then Tow Mater's Grill is second and then Flo's is last. The pizza, they'll have all different types. You can actually request, I believe, it'll just take a while, but you can request toppings on pizzas, but otherwise they have them where they're just rotating them in and out, and they're cutting them up and handing you however many slices you want. Tow Mater's is going to have your hamburgers, hot dogs, I believe, French fries, chicken tenders. And if you are gluten-free, they also have chicken tenders and French fries that they can safely prepare for you gluten-free, along with other options. But I swear most of us gluten-free people, we just tend to gravitate towards the chicken tenders and the French fries back there. Their fruits and salads are really good too. So those are basically your options. Anything you can think of. They'll have a specialty sandwich a lot of times too. They'll have a chicken sandwich they have it typically on a board or something. That's a specialty of the day. So that's just something to look out for. This quick service, besides the pizza, is typically open from I want to say 11 until 6, most of it. And then the pizza is open later than that. Is that going to be it? It seems like the salad and the fruit cart, the fruit section closed down early. And even where they can make you a sandwich with whatever items you want, that's going to close down early as well, which is 6 p.m. usually, I think.
Yeah, I think the pizza place is usually open a little bit later. And we've had some really good salads there too. There was a Greek salad that I really enjoyed. And then they had, I think somebody else talked about this on one of our podcasts. There was it was a strawberry and...
It was me.
Oh,
it was strawberry and goat cheese. And oh my God, it was so good. I was so disappointed that it wasn't on the Fantasy during my Christmas cruise. And I just didn't... So the thing is that if you have an allergy, they have to find a head waiter to write it on a slip. And then they go through all these processes, which is fantastic, right? That's what we're hoping for. I don't want to get sick, but it's a process. So if they already have the salads ready because they don't cross-contaminate when they're making those for that line, then I can feel like I can eat it. But man, if they have the strawberry goat cheese and it's spinach salad, get it. It's amazing.
So the last place that we could probably throw out as a tip is the Cove Cafe. They have in the morning, a lot of times they'll have things like croissants and some other different kind of breakfasty pastries that you can have with your coffee. And then during the day, they used to, and I didn't get to take a look at it this time, but they would usually have stuff that comes up from Palo, sort of some of the meats in the evening, excuse me, right prior to dinner, kind of that dinner time frame. They'll have olives and cheeses and some different meats and stuff like that. Kind of like what you can get on the charcuterie board, I believe, in Palo.
Yeah. And somebody recently was on that said that they still are offering that in the Today Times.
So that's another option for you food wise as well. So
adults only though.
Yeah. Adults only. Yeah. You don't want the kids going in there grabbing the olives with their hands.
I'm just saying the Cove Cafe is in the adult only section. You are supposed to be an adult to come in there. So there you go. Then there's one other thing. There is the ice cream and Frozone treats. So on all of the ships, they have that soft serve ice cream that's just on deck. So you can get soft serve ice cream like the entire time the pool's open, I believe. Back in that area, they also, I believe, make smoothies that they'll charge and sell you. So if that's something you are looking for, there's like a little bar back there, and I believe they make smoothies.
I'm going to say, I think the food is better than a lot of the stuff that you get in the parks. Would you say, Christy, as far as like the burgers and fries and things like that?
Yes, except the one caveat is, for whatever reason, cruise ships are notorious for not knowing how to melt the cheese on your hamburger. I don't know. I don't know what that is about, but it's like a Caribbean thing or something. They'll throw a piece of cheese on there, but it is not melted.
And I'm not going to go beyond that. I'm not going to go into any other like reviews on how good the food is, because I think
it's good and it's included and it's available, and pizza is for sure available at night, because even gluten-free ones, I remember being on the Magic and having a way later night like pizza craving, and they made me a whole gluten-free pizza. I mean, that was like 8 years ago, but I definitely remember that.
So if you're looking for like Guy's Burgers, it's not going to be like that, but I think it's good food. It's definitely food your kids are going to enjoy, and I don't mind it as well. So I think overall there's a lot of really good food options on the Disney Cruise Line ship. So before we get out of here, Christy, anything else that we can touch on as far as cabanas or being able to get food up on the pool decks that we haven't talked about?
Just really quick, something that we do when we are going to Palo for brunch or for dinner, which is adult only dining, we go and get my son pizza or something quick. And it usually ends up being pizza. We get him like a big bowl of cut up fruit. We get him pizza, sometimes a couple of like a small salad or some vegetables, but he can either eat that in our room, depending on his mood, or he can eat it around the pool. It's a great option if the adults are going out to do some other dining and there's not other people to take your child to the restaurant.
Good tips there. Well, I hope you guys are enjoying these mini episodes. We're trying to touch on things that we've talked about in the past, definitely on a little bit longer setting, but we're trying to kind of update it for people that haven't been on the ships for a while, or maybe you're cruising for the first time on Disney Cruise Line. So I hope you enjoy these mini episodes as we kind of touch on some of the different aspects of cruising with Disney Cruise Line. If you out there, if you're listening and you have something that you would like us to talk about, we sure would appreciate it. You can send me either Christy or I an email, steve@dclpodcast.com or christy@packyourpixiedust.com. Send us an email and we'll try and include it in the next mini episode as well. So I guess as we get out of here today, Christy, any final thoughts?
I do have one final little thought. If you have not filled out an iTunes review for us yet, would you please do that? It helps us with our ratings. It helps us for other new listeners that hadn't previously known about us to find us. So we would really appreciate it. We did get some, which we're going to read. Hopefully, I mean, I don't know when this is going to air versus something else, but we are going to start reading our iTunes reviews on an episode so you can listen for yours. But I know we have gotten some at the beginning of this year, at the end of last year. We really appreciate it. But if you haven't yet and you could fill those out for us, we'd really appreciate it.
Definitely. Like you said, it helps with the metrics to get known a little bit more in the cruising and the Disney cruising community. And I don't even mind reading a negative review. Like we got one a long time ago, which said that there's more ways to get to the port in Seattle than taking an Uber. There's public transportation also. So good note there. We can learn from them as well.
Yeah, you can do that. You can just send us a private note too, if you want to tell us something specific that you don't prefer. There was definitely people out there that have lots of opinions on the things we say, and that's fine. We appreciate your opinions.
Yeah. The one negative to them is you can't respond to them. We can't respond to them. So if there's like a legitimate question, we can't really respond back to them other than talking on the air. So, all right.
And some people, we can tell who they are based on their name, and some people we cannot. So we just would have no way to reach you. So just something to keep in mind.
Well, as we get out of here, once again, thanks for coming back and taking a listen. We want to wish you and your families all the best as we continue through 2022. Enjoy the time you have with your families when you're traveling, whether it's Adventures by Disney, Disney Cruise Line, getting ready for Princess Weekend down at Run Disney, or just spending time in the parks. So on behalf of myself and Chris, who's not here today, I'll say good night, everybody. Thanks for coming back and taking a listen. And I'll let Christy say good night as well.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. And we'll see you next time on the DCL podcast. Cheers, guys.
The DCL podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.